Hi, good morning, everyone. Gab here, market analyst from SmarTrade. So let's have our daily briefing for today. And let's start by taking a recap on yesterday's data. All right, so first things we have the unemployment rate for UK for the month of March. So the previous data was 3.8%, and the market forecast at 3.8%. So the actual data was 3.7%. So this one is better comparing on the market forecast and also the previous data. And let's see what happened on the pound against the dollar right after this release. So for the pound USD on the 5 minutes time frame, the price moved in the range of 42.6 pips. And 1 hour after the event, it ended with a bullish trend of 38 pips. So obviously, the pound against the dollar benefited from this data. Also followed by the claimant count change for UK for the month of April. So the previous data is negative 81.6K, and the market forecast at negative 42K. And the release time was 2 p.m. as well yesterday. All right, so the actual data was negative 56.9K. So even though this one is slightly better, but still the claimant count change is negative figures for the month of April for UK. So right after the event, the price of the British pound against the dollar moved in a range of 42.6 pips. And 1 hour after the event, it ended with a bullish trend of 38 pips. And so we have the employment change quarterly basis for the European zone, or for the Eurozone rather. So the previous data was 0.4%. And the market forecast still the same, but for 0.4%. And the release time yesterday was 5 p.m. And the actual data slightly better comparing on the market forecast, and also it beats the previous data at 0.5%. So for the euro dollar, so the price moved in the range of 22.2 pips, and 1 hour after the event, it ended with a bearish trend of 13.9 pips. We also have the yearly basis for the employment change. So the previous data was 2.1%, and the market forecast at 2.6%. And the actual data was 2.6%, so it was neutral since it did not meet the market expectations. It remained the same figures. And the euro dollar moved in the range of 22.2 pips, and 1 hour after the event, it ended with a bearish trend of 13.9 pips. Also, we have the gross domestic product or GDP quarterly basis for European zone. So the previous data was 0.3%, and the market forecast at 0.2%. And the actual data slightly higher at 0.3%, so it beats the market forecast, but the previous data and the actual remains the same. So for the euro dollar, surprisingly, the price of the euro dollar moved in the range of 22.2 pips, and it ended with a bearish trend of 13.9 pips. And also we have the yearly basis, 4.7% for the previous data, and forecasted at 5%. And the actual data, 5.1%, slightly higher comparing with the market forecast, and it beats the previous data, obviously. So for the euro dollar, it moved in the range of 22.2 pips, and it ended with a bearish trend of 13.9 pips, 1 hour following the event. And lastly, we have the retail sales for US monthly basis for the month of April. So the previous data was 1.4%, and the market forecast at 0.6%. And the actual data was 0.9%, so slightly higher compared to the market forecast, but it did not beat the previous data. To be specific on the dollar yen, the price moved in the range of 38 pips, and it ended with a bearish trend of 13.8 pips 1 hour after the event. And for today's European session, we have a lot of things that you have to pay attention. So later at 2 p.m., we have the inflation rate or the consumer's price index for UK. So we have here the monthly basis for the month of April, and also the yearly basis. And you also have to pay attention on the PPI output data and also the retail price index. So as you can see here, the consumer price index for monthly basis. So previous data was 1.1%, and it's being forecasted slightly higher, around 2.6%. And we also have the yearly basis. It's expected to be higher as well. So the previous data was 7%, and the market consensus at 9.1%. And also for the US session, we have to focus on the building permits monthly basis for the month of April, and also for the housing starts. And also we have to pay attention on the inflation rate data, or the consumer's price index for Canada as well. So the building permits, previous data was 1.87 million. And it's being forecasted slightly lower, around 1.81 million. And also the housing starts, previous data at 1.79, and it's being forecast around 1.76. But for the CPI data for Canada, if we base it on the monthly basis for the month of April, month-on-month basis, so the previous data was 1.4%, and it's being forecasted at 0.5%. And for the yearly basis, it is expected to be neutral, since the market consensus is still expected to be around 6.7% versus the previous data. And for our key products for today, first things, we have the British pound against the USD. So during the Asian session, the current price of the pound against the dollar is around 1.2473. But for today's support, we have to pay attention on the 1.237 level, and also the 1.225 for the support extension. And for the key resistance, we have the 1.25 and 5, and also the 1.26 and 2, respectively. And for the USD CAD, the current price during the Asian session is somewhere around 1.2832 territory. But for today's support, we have to pay attention around 1.27 and 9, and also the 1.27 and 7 for the key extension, and also for the resistance at 1.28 and 4 and 1.28 and 8, respectively. All right, thank you everyone for joining our daily briefing. Stay safe and have a great day.